Great, so the recording started. And here we go. So as I said, this is the Healthy Streets Officers and Transport for London STARS School Champion Workshop. We are going to go over some of what STARS is, some of what you could be doing at this time of year, and have some more opportunities for questions and details later on. We're not going to be accepting questions as we go through, so please make a note of any questions that you have, and there will be breakout rooms towards the end of the session today where you have the opportunity to ask other schools and Healthy Streets officers some of your questions. I can hear a playground in the background of somebody, so I'm going to ask that person mutes.
Sorry, that's me. Let me.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, first slide then, please, Sylvia. I've already said this, I think, but we'll be recording this webinar, so make sure that your camera's switched off if you don't want to appear in it. My name's Ava Osbiston. I'm the Healthy Streets Officer, part-time and with a job share in Richmond and Wandsworth. I'm going to be sort of facilitating the forum today. And this is what we're going to be covering. So we're going to be doing a brief review of what STARS is. I'll talk us through that. And I'll be telling you a little bit about running hands up surveys in your schools in springtime. And then I'm going to hand over to other members of the HSO team to talk about applying for STARS accreditation, the Junior Travel Ambassador Scheme. We're going to hear from a school who's engaged with the Junior Travel Ambassador Scheme. We'll speak a little bit about Bike Week. We'll have an update from the London Transport Museum, and then we'll go into breakout rooms to have a question and answer session. Can I have the next slide, please? Great. So hopefully you're all here because you know a little bit about what STARS is and why we do it, but I'm going to give you a bit of a brief overview of why it's important to engage with STARS. So STARS is an acronym. It stands for Sustainable Travel, Active, Responsible, Safe. It's an accreditation programme run by Transport for London, managed by the London Transport Museum. And it's a scheme to encourage pupils to travel actively and safely to school. It's an accreditation scheme, which means that schools get recognised for the work that they do with their pupils. So you can either get bronze, silver or gold accreditation. And the accreditation began in 2007, and it's for all different types of schools in London, primary, secondary, SEN pupils, prep schools, all different kinds of schools can engage with this programme because there's lots of different activities that you can take part in. Next slide, please. There's obviously loads of really good reasons to take part in STARS. And primarily, as we're all very concerned with, is the wider environmental benefits of encouraging your pupils to walk instead of driving to school, walk or cycle or scoot or wheel to school. So there's the wider environmental health benefits. There's also the individual health benefits, that it's great to keep pupils active. And there's some studies that show that pupils that travel actively to school have better concentration in their classes. It's also really great for your wider community in the sense that it supports pupils feeling safer in their local community. It supports local people knowing each other. It supports engagement with the schools. And then finally, it's obviously incredibly important that this STARS programme is not just about travelling actively, it's also about road safety and making pupils be aware of their environments and the potential dangers of traffic on the road. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an overview of what STARS is and why we should do it. And one of the major tools that we use within the STARS programme is the Hands Up survey function, which is the survey that we do each year in every school. And this is a survey that finds out how pupils travel to school, how pupils and teachers and staff travel to school. And it's something that we need to do every year whilst engaging with the STARS programme. And we should do them because they're basically the foundation of the accreditation. From your first hands up survey to your final hands up survey, if you're going for gold after 3 years, that's what will be used to assess whether you get your gold accreditation. It also is really useful data and information for internally within the school to help you indicate the kinds of activities that you should be running and for setting targets. And sorry, I've just been distracted by something on my screen. I've got a notification. Yeah, so it helps you to set targets. So say, for example, if you find out that most of the pupils in your school already walk to school, then it might not be that you need to run lots of activities to help pupils encourage them to walk to school. It might be that you want to focus on more activities around road safety. Or if you find out that lots of your pupils are being driven to school, then you might want to do quite a lot of activities that are to do with engaging parents in thinking about their travel behaviour. So yeah, it helps you to decide what kind of activities to run. And it also, by doing a hands up survey, because every single person in the school is going to be asked about their travel behaviour, it communicates the importance of this scheme to the whole school. So it might pique some interest from different places who might not have heard about you doing it already. And obviously that depends on the size of the school and that sort of thing. So yeah, you see it red at the bottom of this slide, that to get gold accreditation, you need to prove that you've either achieved a 6% reduction in car use since the school's first survey, or that 90% of your pupils are walking, cycling and scooting. So your gold accreditation should happen after 3 years, and this is what we're sort of aiming for, and this is what the hands up survey can help us to find out. Next slide, please. So hands up survey, when should you do them? You need to do one every year. Can I go back to the previous slide, please? Thank you. And we want to try and do it at a comparable time so we can look at the difference, because obviously if you do one in the midwinter and one in the midsummer, you're going to have very different travel behaviour. So try and pick a time of the year and a particular day that has sort of average weather. Who knows what average weather means in the UK, but we recommend it's either in the spring or in the autumn, so it's sort of like in between weather. And you need at least 90% of your school to be in attendance on that day, which I know has been tricky during the last few years. So hopefully we're getting towards a place now where the attendance in the school is higher. But yeah, at least 90% of the school needs to be there. It needs also to be a normal school day, so not when you're doing a competition or running a particular event or having a special sort of different day. It needs to just be on a normal school day. And there's so much more information you can find out about hands up surveys on the STARS website, and also your borough officer or Healthy Streets officer can help you as well. There are a few different ways that you can actually conduct a hands up survey in your school. So the most obvious and the simplest way is to do it via a survey link, which can be generated on the STARS website, which just creates a little link, and you can send that to all of the teachers in the school. And when they do their registration in the morning or the afternoon, they can ask their pupils these the survey questions. Alternatively, if you are working with a group of junior travel ambassadors, which we're going to hear a bit more about later, you could set it so that those pupils want to travel around to every class and ask each class individually, and you might want to do that with them if you're the school travel champion. There is a possibility that you could do it in a whole school assembly. Obviously depends on how big your school is, and that can be quite chaotic to try and count and get accurate numbers. We've got a note at the bottom here that for younger children, it can be particularly good to get them to physically move around the room. So we've seen some classes have like, this is the corner if you walk to school today, this is the corner if you were driven to school today, this is the corner if you cycled to school today. So you can get a really clear indication so that you don't get people putting their hands up twice and that sort of thing. Next slide, please. So when you go to complete your hands up survey, there are loads of different categories of the types of travel that your pupils can select. Now, some of those are going to be more appropriate for your school than others. And you should choose clarify to the pupils that, say, for example, if they walk to the train station that takes 5 minutes, they then spend 20 minutes on the train, and then they walk to school for another 2 minutes. They should select train as their primary form of transport. And sometimes that can be a little ambiguous. You might need to have a discussion about that. And obviously, if you look at this list of different forms of transport, some of these are going to be very applicable for your school and some not at all. If you're not near a DLR line, it's probably not even worth including it in your question. And river is always an option that people's love to say that they would like to travel by river, but it's obviously only applicable to certain schools in London. And particular care should be taken around the differences between travelling by car and car share and park and stride. Now, when this data is aggregated, all those categories count as car usage. Now, the reason why we separate those out into 3 different sections is it might be useful for your school particularly because of where you're situated or particular conditions for you to know which mode of transport people are taking, whether they're car sharing or whether they are parking and striding. If you don't know what park and stride is, it's when parents drive their pupils near the school and then walk the final part, usually 10 minutes walk to the school. So all of those count as primarily car usage, but it's up to you in your school whether you think it would be useful for you to know the differences between that data. Next slide. Great. And then this is the actual questions. What do you ask your pupils? You ask them, 1, how did you travel to school today? Hopefully that's a reasonably simple question that everybody will be able to answer. Although there might be some clarification questions, as I said before, about which was their primary mode. And then the second question is, how would you prefer to travel to school today? Which can vary massively, and it's really interesting to find out from the pupils if they would prefer to be walking or cycling if they were taking the car, or some other option as well. Just a little note at the bottom of here saying that teachers need to remember that they are going to be having their own data collected in the staff survey, which is a separate survey, not to include their data in their classroom survey. And yeah, so there's lots of more information about that on the STARS website. Hopefully that gives you a bit more of an overview of what hands up surveys are for and how to conduct them. If you have more questions, there's an opportunity to ask questions later, and there's also lots of information to follow up with on the STARS website. And I believe that I am now handing over, next slide, to my colleague Anne to speak about accreditation.
That might be me. Sorry, I just stopped sharing because some people were waiting in the lobby, so I've just admitted them. Thank you.
Thanks, Sylvia.
Great, thank you, Sylvia. So let's carry on. My name is Anne and I am a Healthy Street Officer for Lambeth and Merton, and I'm going to be talking to you about applying for accreditation. Indeed, we are now reaching this time of the year where you need to think about what needs to be done for applying for accreditation. The deadline for submitting your accreditation applications is on the 11th of July at 9 AM. So it is coming quite quickly. This is the deadline from TfL, but bear in mind that maybe your borough officer will have a different deadline for you. I mean, probably sooner. So that's something you can check with your borough officer. And then it will carry on that during the summer, TfL and the borough officers will check your applications, and by the end of August, the website will automatically update with your new accreditation level, so you will know whether your application is successful or not. And by December, all the plaques, certificates and card marks are being sent over so we can distribute them to schools. So that's the timeline. Next slide, please, Sylvia. So in order to apply for accreditation, you need to do that online, as we said, before the 11th of July. To do that, you need to go on your school profile, and under the little trackers, the colorful trackers that you can see on the left, you've got this blue button that says apply for